Welcome to this conversation. Just to a bit of background for those of you who are less familiar. Mendel is a columnist, historian and educator and director of the Anne Frank Educational Center in Frankfurt. He studied history in the universities of Haifa and Munich, completed his doctorate at the Johann Wolfgang von Goethe University in Frankfurt. Please don't say anything about my German pronunciation. I'm doing my absolute best here. He is also Professor of Social Work at the Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences. His latest book is Muslim-Jewish Supper, Living Together in Times of Polarization, a collection of columns written with his wife, Sabonor Shima. Ofer Waldman is an author, columnist, and activist who heads the Heinrich-Böll Foundation in Tel Aviv. He received his doctorate in history and German studies from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the Free University of Berlin. His work addresses political, social, cultural, and historical issues relating to Israel and Germany, and his latest book is Contested Land. It's imminent, right? Or it's already published?
It was published a month ago.
Okay. A book of personal essays on how ideas of Israel have changed through generations of his own family. So I wanted to start this conversation from a personal point of view, so to establish kind of your human credentials and to talk about your biographies a bit. You're both Israeli men of a similar age, I won't give it away. Both trained as historians, relatively close politically. You're part of a phenomenon of Israelis who made careers in Germany. Both active players in a very public discourse about Israel and Germany, about Jewish identity, about German identity. What did you find in Germany, and what did Germany find in you? Start.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Esther, and thank everybody who made this conference possible. I'll take 20 seconds of my answer to thank the staff of Haaretz, of the Heinrich-Böll Foundation here in Berlin, and of the office in Tel Aviv. And first and foremost, Claude Weinberg, my predecessor as head of office in Tel Aviv, who's made this possible. Claude, you're somewhere there. I won't make you stand up, but thank you so much for pushing for this. There you are, pushing for this conference to happen, as it is so important to hear these voices here in the German public sphere. I think it is indeed interesting that Meron, I think it's the first time we sit on a panel together, actually. So it's a premiere, very nice. It is interesting that two Israeli men, as you said, Esther, are fulfilling this position within the German discourse. There is this German phrase, which many people are reluctant to use, die Staatsräson, raison d'être, that the security, that the existence of Israel is a part of the raison d'être of Germany, turning the entire discussion about Israel to a self-referential German discussion. Now, it is an important discussion. While we talk about Israel, we talk about the German past, we talk about the German present as a post-migrational society, and the problem is we tend sometimes we forget to talk about Israel itself. So it's a kind of looking at in a mirror. And yet, Meron, head of the Anne Frank Bildungsstätte in Frankfurt, and myself, who's used to be the head of the New Israel Fund in Germany, now for the Heinrich-Böll Foundation, fulfill this role within Germany. Because I think that, and a member of Knesset and Oda just put it together, there is a significance to look at the German past and present from an Israeli perspective to learn some lessons who's been made here. And I think there is a significance for Germany as well to look at the Israeli presence, to learn where or how democracy can be brought on its knees. If you look, for instance, at the legislation now being brought up by the current Knesset against the free press, we see how important it is to defend the free press. As a member of Haaretz, you can put it in better words than I can. So I think this living between the two countries, seeing the developments we see in Israel and developments we see in Germany, seeing the similarities, is a unique role, is an important role. both to defend democracy here as well. We shouldn't forget, we sit in a country that votes in more than 20% to the AfD, to a right-wing populist party, and to defend the democracy in our homeland, in Israel.
So Ofer already said everything, so I try to repeat it. So first of all, my 20 seconds is really that I lived since 2001 in Germany, and I swear it was no one morning that the first thing to do is to open my cellular phone and look in Haaretz. That's the way I'm starting every day, and that's something that give me the feeling of certainty that the world is still safe, existing. Everything, the compass is on the right side. Israel changed in these 25 years, but Haaretz stay as it was always, and that's why it's a great honor to be here today. To your question, actually, I'm like 15 years in the public sphere in Germany, and if you look in the first 10 years, you can do it yourself. You won't find one statement of myself about Israel. I avoid this issue. I was as the head of the Anna Frank Center talking about anti-Semitism, about racism, but if someone asks me about from the newspaper or TV, we want to ask you about Israel, I said no comment. Because there was actually just two possibilities to talk about Israel in Germany. To be the spokesman of the Israeli foreign ministry, or to be the guy, the left wing that said, yeah, you see the Israelis are the same like the Nazis, and to be the Jews that speak out what the Germans are not allowed to say. And both options were not really attractive for me. And then, but I was like from inside, because I'm a very political person, especially the question of Israeli-Palestine was the issue which burning in my guts. So it was the time of Corona, and my very wise wife told me, Meron, if it's like burning in you, just write about it. So I wrote a book, it published in in March 23, talking about Israel, the German debate. And it was for me like coming out with my opinions about Israel, to try to find my way between not playing in the hand of anti-Semites and give them the argument they don't, they're not allowed to say, but not being to try to represent country or government which I don't want to represent. And since then it was like I just found out there are many people who are really want to listen to this voice, and there are a lot of people that don't want to listen to this voice. And for example, I think is someone here from the Israeli embassy, so I can say it. So like, if it's like 2 weeks without that Ron Prosor is writing a tweet about or X post about me and few other Israelis as the anti-Semitic Jews, Israel haters, supporters of BDS, or what other slur that you have, I think something is not okay. Maybe he's sick or something.
Yes, please, yeah.
So it won't be a surprise that Meron is speaking out of my heart, actually. There is this phrase in German, Applaus von der falschen Seite, to get applauded from the wrong side, from the wrong political side. And indeed, I think it is an experience that many Israelis, Jews in this country make, that once you say something, when you want to criticize, for instance, the Israeli government, that you get applauded from people say, yeah, right, Israel is, and then, oh my God, please, no, don't use my name. And I'm sure that there is somebody from the embassy writing down, so I said it, just for the record. But And actually, for a long time, I was reluctant to participate in what I perceived as an Israeli theater in front of a German audience. The default lines were Israel here, Germany there, and then we conduct this political discussion saying how horrible our government is, just in order to justify this or that political standing within Germany. But I think Ayman Odeh just showed us the fault lines are not between Israelis and Germans, but between Democrats and the enemies of democracy. And I think that those, and this is something that you can definitely see if you have the privilege to work for a foundation like the Heinrich-Böll Foundation in Israel, that you see that the Democrats in Israel and in Palestine need the solidarity and support of democratic forces here in Germany. And the Democrats in this country, by the way, need our support as well, the global support, yeah? They won't make it alone. And we definitely see that the other side is very well organized and networked. We see that Orban and Netanyahu and Trump, they do learn from each other, you know, like best practices wise. And this is why we should network as well.
Not just best practice, you know, practical, financial, all sorts of years of coalition building.
Absolutely. So this is why such conferences as this one is so important. Again, thank you, Claude. Yeah, so it's great to have this discussion here today.
So if we go back to Merkel's historic speech in the Knesset, where she gave this, definition or recommitment to the idea of the Staatsraison, Germany's special historical responsibility for Israel's security is part of my country's raison d'etre. It's kind of ironic that actually it translated into French because, yeah. Now, the idea of the Staatsraison, obviously, she meant it in a certain way. And it has gone through various kinds of incarnations since. Can you explore exactly what she intended it to mean and how people are using it now?
First of all, I want to advertise. In August next year, we will sit here with Angela Merkel. So in this here in the Berliner Festspiele. So please write in your calendar and come. So I can ask her this question. I want to say about this Staatsraison that, of course, it's also in German. It sounds very important word, but frankly, it doesn't mean anything more than that German and Israeli, because of the past, have a special relationship. Okay, so let's keep it low and stay what it means. And interesting enough, it was she said this sentence, quietly word to word, the same sentence 1 year before. She spoke for the United Nations. Nobody really took a note about it. And then she was speaking also with German newspaper, Die Welt, and said it again. Nobody really took a note about it. And then she said it 2008 in the Knesset, and it was like explode. And if you read it, not just this sentence, so all the speech, 2 sentences before, she's talking about the two-state solutions. She is talking about the threat and the existential threat to Israel from Iran, and she's talking about the two-state solution. And she's speaking in front of someone, maybe is not here yet, but he will come soon, in front of Ehud Olmert, as the prime minister, the last Israeli prime minister, that really intended to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And in this context, it is clear that this commitment of a German chancellor from a very central European state, Israel will stand behind you. You can go to make hard compromises because you know we are standing behind you and you can trust on us. It was it had as a clear direction. So now it's kind of ironical. Almost 20 years later, that now right-wing politicians in Germany and Israel, of course, are using the same frame or the same promise exactly for the opposite. It doesn't matter what Israel is doing in Gaza, in West Bank, what is the politics of Netanyahu and his right-wing extremists in the coalition, because we have this obligation. But actually the obligation is exactly the contrary obligation, and that's why it's always important to say that this Staatsräson, it means we are standing for you on the side of Israel or behind Israel if Israeli going to a peaceful solution with the Arab world and the Palestinians.
Also in that speech that Merkel gave, she said 2 or even 3 times, one of the basis of the relationship between Israel and Germany was the shared values, and used, that phrase of shared values, at a time that there is a more than, theoretical threat to liberal democracy in Israel, and with the whole question of international law, the case against Netanyahu in the ICC. In what way does that idea that there are still shared values that pact between Israel and Germany, where does it stand now?
I think this is, and I agree with Meron here, I think this is the core of this phrase.
All the time. Can you please contradict me?
What shall I do? As Esther said it, well, we'll go into it later. Putting two Ashkenazi men from Israel working now in Germany, yeah, that's what you get. But again, the phrase of the Staatsräson, the raison d'être, goes back to this notion that in order to understand something about its past and present, Germany has to engage in a discussion about Israel and with Israel. Because if you want to understand, for instance, the beautiful first chapter of the German constitution, Die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar, the dignity of human being is untouchable, you have to go back to the German Jewish history. And that's the thing, and I absolutely agree with Meron that this is an unprecedented and unacceptable diversion that we see today in German politics. Because there are two, in a way, bluntly put, 2 lessons learned from this shared past, producing these shared values. One is the solidarity with the Jewish people, hence with the state of Israel. But the second one, which is as strong as a pillar of the modern German state, is the commitment to humanitarian law, to the international law. And there are forces within, as Meron put it, within the German political sphere these days, who try to say it's either or. It's either you're pro-Israeli, you're on the side of Israel, or you support international law. This is absurd, because as was put by many speakers before us, the only way Israel has a prosperous future is alongside an independent, democratic Palestinian state. Full stop. And then Israel will be in compliance with international law. So basically it goes hand in hand. Expressing solidarity with Israel, with the Jewish people, and being committed to international law. And whoever states otherwise here in Germany has a hidden political agenda. We can have a whole different conference about that. But it's unacceptable, this either or, entweder oder, it's either the international law or it's being in solidarity with Israel. Not at all. It goes hand in hand.
Another aspect of this, the weight of the relationship between Israel and Germany that is based on 20th century history, of course, is the call by German politicians to defend Jewish life in Germany, which is also something that Merkel talked about, but obviously it comes up in, political speeches all the time, and political and policies as well. These days, when that phrase, defending Jewish life in Germany, it's not always used with the purest intentions. Can you give some examples or discuss how this phrase, which obviously comes out, initially thought of in good faith as a way to ensure that Jews in Germany will never be under threat again, but it's now being used repurposed for quite different purposes, for instance, to repress the right of free speech or protest, or as a more blatant form of racist suppression as well.
Maybe I've been last week in the city of Wittenberg. Wittenberg is the city where Martin Luther put his thesis. I've been in the day of the Reformation Day there and gave a speech, and then a woman just after I finished went to the stage and hugged me and said, "You are a present for Germany," and. I never thought of myself of being a present. So that's not what you already meant, but it's like a common sense of like mythology of Jews in Germany, like. We are living presence going through the Germany, and Germany can be proud of that there is Jews that living here. By the way, if you look of the history of Jews in Germany since 1945, it's not so easy history. They have a problem with the Jewish world as being condemned as traitors. They have problem with German government and German population was not always like pro-Jews. And we saw that this population was always after like the 50s getting decreased, and then came Jews from in the 90s or late 90s from former Soviet Union, and just more so like 85% of the Jews in Germany came as migrants from the former Soviet Union because Germany didn't have enough Jews, but. What you really aim with your question, it's about relatively lately phenomenon in the German politics. You see that the most philo-Semitic pro-Jews, or at least pro-Israel party in the German parliament, it's the AfD, the right extremist, right radical, right populist. There are different definitions. They made, for example, a special session in the Bundestag for fighting against anti-Semitism, and they invited. He already died, but they invited then the Rafi Eitan. He was one of the most important Israel intelligence people. He called Eichmann, for example, and Rafi Eitan told them, "You shouldn't be just." Alternative for Germany, you have to be alternative for Europe because you are so hard-lined against Muslims, against migration. And we talked before about this alliance between right extremists in Israel and right extremists in Europe, between Netanyahu and Orban and the right extremists in the United States in this way. So there, of course, the AfD are for Jews, not because they love Jews, they hate Jews, but they hate more the Muslims than they hate the Jews. So they said, okay, we'll defend, we are for Israel because, first of all, the Jews won't be here, they will go to Israel. And secondly, we can marginalize the Muslims, we can stop migration, we can discriminate Muslims, and for the good cause. The good cause is fighting anti-Semitism.
Just to follow up from that, bearing in mind the constant courtship of various Israeli government ministers with the European far right, are you concerned that despite the taboo having held more or less until now with the AfD, the trajectory is that they will actually make contact with them and therefore legitimize them?
Well, we've seen already in the past that members of the Austrian FPÖ were visiting Israel, were meeting with the Likud members. And we have seen at the conference that was mentioned before in Jerusalem, members of the far right in Germany being, or not only in Germany, in Europe, being invited to Jerusalem. And one must say, we have also seen political currents here inviting far-right members of the current Israeli coalition from the Likud party to visit Berlin, giving them international legitimacy to do what they're doing, wreaking havoc on the Israeli democracy back home. And so I wouldn't risk a prophecy, but we see in what direction it goes. As one says in Arabic, the enemy of your enemy is your friend. So the same goes here. The enemy is the Muslim, the Arab, the migrant. So, like Meron said, all of a sudden, I remember 2015, 2016, when the first Syrian refugees arrived here in Berlin or in Germany, all of a sudden we discovered this amazing love of the CSU to Jewish life in Germany. I was like, we have to protect our Jewish community, so we have to put a limit on the amount of people coming to seek refuge, escaping the horrific war in Syria. And we see it from many political parties in Germany. And again, going back to this, when we talk about Israel in Germany, we basically talk about the German past. And there is this this misconception that, or there is this attempt to say, when we talk about the German Jewish past, only those who participated in this past or their descendants are allowed to have a place on the table. Hence, only Jews, or people of Jewish descent, and people of ethnic German descent. But we live in a post-migrational reality here in Germany. So whoever argues in this direction basically says, you don't belong to the German society. You don't belong to this lesson learned that are expressed in the German constitution. So when you say the dignity of the human being is untouchable, yeah, but it actually applies only to those who have direct connection to the Second World War and to the German Jewish past. And it's a horrible conception because, of course, these lessons are universal. International law is universal, fighting racism is universal, fighting anti-Semitism is also universal. And it is a problem in this country. But again, when somebody living in a district in Germany where almost 50% vote for the AfD and they say, yeah, but we should beware of imported anti-Semitism from Muslim or Arabic state, it's like, you know... I don't think that anyone had to import this anti-Semitism to this country. It has done pretty well without being brought from other places.
That, in what you're talking about, the fact that this discussion cannot be a kind of closed club to people who have some kind of generational commitment, but it must be something that is open to everyone in Germany. It also relates to the fact that many of those migrants, the children of migrants, they're becoming part of, they're part of the German electorate as well. And the debate about Israel and Germany is obviously going to change because, a more varied electorate, a changing of generations, as we've seen also in the US Democratic Party, perhaps signified also, by the Mamdani win. There is a different, there was generations of German political leaders who made various kinds of comments, various kind of conceptions about Israel. What do you see as the future for how a different kind of relationship between Germany and Israel because of, the changing face of Germany as well?
I think we have here a generation conflict, not just in Germany, but I see it in Germany because I'm quite a lot, not just in my university, but in many universities. I'm talking with a lot of students, and my impression is that the Palestinian solidarity is now like a glue that combines all generation. Their slogan is "Free Palestine from German guilt." So they see the German commemoration culture on the Holocaust not as achievement, but as a burden that have to get rid of it in order to be able to look without restrictions about the situation in Israel and Palestine. The problem is, and Eva Iluz talked about it before, it is a very simplistic way of looking about this conflict. It's not about peace. It's not like Ayman Odeh just said about the two-state solution. It's very inherent, the completely negation or against the existence of the state of Israel as idea, as a solution for Jewish people. And it's not I think it's not a coincidence. Since October 7th, I've been in a lot of conferences, but almost all of them have been either the pro-Israel side or the pro-Palestinian side. It's maybe the first one that I really see a conference. It's not about doing lobby for one side or to the other, but trying to understand what is going on there. That's something that completely missed in Germany, and we need Haaretz to come here and teach us how to do it. So I think the biggest challenge is to doing the shift in the between just taking a position for Palestinians or for Israel, in a way, the older generation for Israel, the younger generation for the Palestinians, to come to a state of discussion, which is what is good for the Jewish Israelis, for the Palestinians, to live in this peace left from the river to the sea. And if we are not doing it, I really have really great concern where we are going now, not just in Germany, but specifically in Germany.
We're already over time, but if you want to say something brief.
I'll say it very briefly. Jan-Philipp Albrecht from the World Foundation said before, this is the goal of what we're doing here, to open up a space of discussion. And sorry, but I agree with you again that it's great that Haaretz is coming here to this city, to this country, in order to enable that. Because this generational problem, we have it in Germany, the notion that we want to put a line under history and to move on. We have the same thing in Israel, I think, that the lesson learned in the 20th century are not longer valid for Israeli politics, but they are. They definitely are. The thing is, and that's the test, I think that's this is the challenge that we all have as Democrats, that everybody have to have, especially here in Germany, but also in Israel, an equal place at the table when we talk about the German Jewish past, when we talk about the post-migrational German society, when we talk about the much needed solidarity of the democratic camp in Israel with, or through people, through activists here, through political parties here, in Germany. Everybody, every citizen of Germany, every inhabitant of Germany should have an equal place at this table. The German Palestinian, the former Soviet Jew, all of them, in order to really revive those lessons learned both for Israel and for Germany.
Thank you very much. We're going to finish there, but I can't stop myself saying thank you to both of these living treasures. I think I'm going to take that away with me.